Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. This episode is also brought to you by Monopool, a fast-growing marketplace for Magic the Gathering that makes buying and selling cards easy. Their optimizer helps you get the best value when buying cards, and their team is focused on making it a great experience for buyers and sellers alike. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivanB. And now, on with the show. Hello, and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic together. My name is Shivam, and Casual Magic is brought to you Architects, Monopool, and Quiver. And please use the links and all the various codes and stuff I've got in the notes and on my podcast website and whatever. Let Monopool and Quiver and Architect know that I sent you so that they consider it a good reason to send me money. Because, it turns out some of these people actually want to see some tangible return for their investment, and I would love to encourage them to continue to help me do this all the time, because this has now become my full-time job here, doing content and stuff. I mean, some of you might be like, idiot, wasn't it your full-time job before? Technically, no, it wasn't. However, between this and Achievement Wheeler and my other stuff, I'm doing well enough now that my wife was like, hey, why don't you actually do this for real and focus on this for real, and then let's see what happens before I tell you to put all this crap away and get a real job. And since I don't want to do that, please go to Monopool, Architect, and Quiver and let them know how much you enjoy me, or go to my Patreon at patreon.com/ShivanB and I guess tell me directly that you like me. I don't know. I mean, you know how this works. Goodness gracious. But today I am very excited to have a kind of... Actually, I'm just kind of confused, but this is kind of going to be a cool one. So I've... Look, the audience, this has a little bit of a story here. So I've been joined today by Suris, who is a... Magic streamer and a politics streamer, and this matters. Say hello to this wonderful vtuber hanging out here. The voice is going to be incongruous to the avatar. I know, because I met him in person first, and then I looked at this and I'm like, oh, you do not look like this. But so here's the deal, right? Like many months ago, I put out a call to action saying, hey, if you, I need guests all the time. If you want to come on the show, just send me a pitch, and my DMs are open. And Sarah sent me a pitch, and I was just like, okay, cool. This, I'm just like, I get a lot of DM stuff. I was going through and looking at, and then I was going to one of my other websites that I go to a lot, Metafilter, which is a old 90s, 2000s era link aggregator that just kind of gets the best of the web, interesting articles and stuff to read. And in one of the comments, somebody was like, hey, who are the good lefty political commentators that are not quite like, Joe Rogan or nonsense or whatever? And somebody brought up the name of a VTuber named Suris. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then so I put two and two together and realized that you are, hello, thank you so much for joining me today, that you're insanely popular. And
I wouldn't say insanely popular. I would... If I was insanely popular, maybe my bills wouldn't be so scary. But...
I know that game. I
don't feel the need to play the number game. I think it's silly, and it's not even like, if I say, hey, my politics channel has 65,000 subscribers, that doesn't actually mean anything, because not everybody who's subscribed watches, and I've been doing this for like 8 years on that channel. So like that number, it doesn't mean anything. It's a number that's there, and it doesn't actually pay my bills.
Yeah, I've learned very interesting over the course of my decade or whatever of doing content, is that the marketing funnel that they teach you about in business is true, which is to say, you throw a net. Goodness gracious, Atlanta is just a lingering cough now. You throw a net out there, and you get 10,000 people who come and click on your link or look at you or whatever, or not even look at your link, just know that you have sent a link, and of those, like 4,000 will click on the link. Of those, 2,000 will actually do the thing the link wants you to do. Of those, like 200 will actually go through the flow. And that's the same I've noticed with like podcasts and with content and stuff. You can have a subscriber number of 100,000 people, but of those, like 1,000 of them are actually people who are going to subscribe to whatever it is you're doing. So I just kind of like don't care as much as like I make sure my numbers stay nice enough that my sponsors care. But like realistically speaking, that's just like I'm glad for anybody who listens, and the number that's on the subs or whatever is not really a thing I can do anything about. So I just let it exist.
It's one of the more frustrating things about like trying to explain your job to somebody who's not in the same sphere, because the first thing that anybody asks outside of like, what do you cover, is how many followers do you have? How many subs do you have? And you're just like, you don't want to go into the spiel about how, okay, that's not a metric that people that are here actually use for anything, because it's a red herring metric that people use to make themselves feel better about themselves, but it doesn't do anything.
Right. Well, that's exactly it. It's like the thing you learn is that the only value for sub numbers and stuff is to try to impress your peers, and your peers are not impressed because
your peers know that that's not impressive.
They know what it means. So like if you're like yesterday, I went to my wife's family had a little get together, and we all got together and hang out. And one of her elderly aunts was talking to me, and she was like, Shivam, I have a question for you. How do you actually make money off of podcasts? And I'm like, sister, if I knew. But I'm like, look, the real talk is that all the subscriber numbers and followers and Twitters and on Blue Skies and Instas and whatever, that's just advertising. Like the actual, you make money by getting sponsors, you make money by getting subscribers, and you try to put together a package of funds that helps you float.
Whenever somebody's like, hey, what does your paycheck look like? Okay, but which paycheck? Are we talking the tiny Twitch one? Are we talking the tiny YouTube one? Are we talking are we talking the Patreon one that thankfully I've got people keeping me afloat on? Like, are we talking the $70 sometimes from merchandise? Like which check are we talking about?
Once every 4 years, Google sends me $1 for my YouTube.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a unique job. I'm glad I've done it for as long as I have, solely because I've become accustomed to how weird it can be. The best piece of advice I ever got was very, very early on when I was like 300 subscribers, and I was attending a YouTuber conference where people that I liked watching were doing a lot of presentations. And one of them sat me down in a hotel lobby and said, do you want this to be your full-time job? And I said, well, yeah, I'd like it to one day. I don't see that happening, but I'd like it to. And he just goes, okay, cool. First thing you need to know, never put your eggs all in one basket. You need to have like 5 streams of income. And that's just to feel stable. And I'm like, those are spooky words. I don't know how to do that.
It's like that's a lot of numbers right there. Like, I mean, because real talk. Anyways, this is well and far afield. We don't need to get deep into
this. This is the
nitty-gritty of how do we actually survive as this. Because like one thing I've noticed, and I apologize to my listeners, is that like my last handful of shows have definitely been a little bit more inside the baseball of how to stream, and that's not fun for anybody except me. And so with that in mind, we were talking before the show about why you have a VTuber. So I was wondering if you could go over that, because like that's one thing I've never. Maybe I'm old. I am old, real talk. But it's like I don't understand this phenomenon, except that I knew a lot of trans folks like to use VTubers because they were like, hey, you know what? I would prefer not to appear on camera as myself for any number of reasons. And I'm like, that's totally respectable. And if you could pay somebody to make a really hot anime thing of you, why not?
Yep.
But so what's the deal here, man?
So years ago, I ran a Hearthstone channel, and I commissioned an artist to do a version of my avatar that would be my real life persona mixed with just Thrall's outfit from Cataclysm era World of Warcraft, because that's what he wears in Hearthstone. And so that's why I've still got that outfit on here. I've still got the beads. There's a couple, things from the outfit that aren't there anymore as my avatar's changed, but I still have that bit of the character. People started submitting fan art of my character as I was talking about politics, though. Like when I moved to doing politics, I kept the character. And because people started submitting fan art, it's a rule of the internet. Eventually, somebody's going to gender bend your character. It's just a thing that's going to happen at some point down the line. Just expect it to happen. I mean, look, dude, eventually.
I've been on the internet long enough. I know.
So, but then I started doing something. There's a YouTuber that I watch and respect a lot called Telltale, and Telltale had a segment at the beginning of every one of his shows where he would say, "Hey, let me show you guys some fan art," and then he would do the voiceover for his episode while showing fan art people had submitted to his Discord or through email. So I said, "Hey, I like that. If somebody's spending the time on me, I want to spend some time on them. I want to showcase their fan art on my channel as well." And then I learned another rule of the internet, which is when you call attention to something, it magnifies. So when somebody submitted gender bent fan art for my character, I was like, wow, that's really weird. I wasn't expecting that. And then I guess a bunch of artists in my community said, that's really funny. Let's make that happen more. And so eventually I ended up with quite literally hundreds of images of gender bent me.
Oh, God.
And eventually as my content was evolving, I realized I needed to increase the amount of content I could make to survive, kind of falling back into that, like, what habits can you get into when you're doing content in order to make enough to survive? Okay, I need to increase my content. What can I do for that? Well, I can move to streaming. But if I move to streaming, my character has to disappear. It's just got to be me in front of the camera. So I did that for a year or so, and I started getting a lot of comments saying, hey, we missed the old Avatar videos. And I said, well, I can't go back to those because like my paycheck quite literally can't survive me doing that kind of content at this juncture. Maybe at a different juncture, but like right now it can't. So I said, okay, how can I solve this? And a bunch of my friends said, well, you get a VTuber avatar. Just get a VTuber version of your character. And I said, well, I could do that, but there's a way more fun way to do this. So I contacted an artist named Remixin, and she's going to come up again here in a bit. But Remixin does VTuber avatars. She's not the one who did this particular avatar. This one was done by Suza Sawara. But I contacted Remixin and said, hey, would you be able to take all of this fan art and turn this into an avatar? Would you be able to make an avatar based on just this? I just want it based on the designs that my fans have submitted, period.
Lord.
And she did, and I didn't tell anybody in my audience that I was doing that. So I just booted up a stream one day with my avatar on, just no explanation.
Can we actually lower your gain a little bit? Because you are peaking a little.
Actually, let me just turn my pad on. Will that work?
Your what?
So Focusrite has a pad where if I need to, instead of lowering my gain, I can just set it to where it always truncates peaks and it lowers things across the board.
Sure, why not?
Okay, cool. So when Remixin sent that to me and I started using that avatar, then that you've called attention to something, now it gets magnified, started happening more and more and more. And people started sending in even more fan art, to the point where I was releasing an episode every day, and I was able to put out 3 pieces of new fan art every episode.
What the?
At the beginning, there was that much of it. And eventually, there's a VTuber named Suza Sawara, like I mentioned before, and I wanted some artwork done by her because her style was really good. And then when I reached out to her, she said, holy crap, you're the reason I got into VTubing.
What?
That's insane that you're reaching out to me. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. How is that happening? So then Suzu, for my birthday one day, sent me some fan art of a slime girl version of my character. And I was like, which is kind of what's here right now. And I said, hey, how much money would I have to pay you to make an avatar version of that? Because that's something that you also know how to do. So we worked out a deal where we had this version of the avatar now. And then Remixin went to work on a different project for me, which was making these still images that like literally just a couple weeks ago started being used for my Magic the Gathering content, because I wanted that content to have more of a like still image PNG tuber look to it instead of the VTuber. So Remixin started working on that project. So basically, just a long-running fall down the stairs of one event leading to another is why I'm here with this now.
I'm too old for this,
But
man.
but then there was a knockdown effect of that happened as well, because I talk
Mhm.
about politics a lot. There were a lot of members of my audience who were trans, who would hear
Sure.
my voice coming out of the avatar and would send me email saying, hey, it gave them a lot of confidence that
Hmm.
somebody using this method actually had an audience of some kind.
Hmm.
That gave them a lot of confidence as well. And it just made me go, well, instead of
Oh, I
doing this
love
thing as a
that.
joke for like a year or so, maybe I'll just
Do it.
lean into this as my thing. Maybe I'll just do this as my thing. And then because I'm a VTuber, I it's easier to collaborate with other VTubers because you're in that same space. So about 4 years ago, I raided a girl named Saki Nightshade, who was a VTuber who was playing Call of Duty at the time. A year and a half after that, we got into a Magic game together on stream. And by the way, that's the girl who was with me at MagicCon. She's
Mm.
been my partner for 2.5 years. We've been living together for
Oh,
that long. So
amazing.
this VTuber avatar actually led to me being with my current partner as well.
God bless, dude. Let's go with it. You know what? I am here to celebrate your wins. Like that sounds amazing. Uh, God, that's so wild. Like I've thought about it just gonna be fun to have an avatar, but at the same time, I'm very well known for who I am already. So it's kind of like that's not that ship has sailed for me. But I find it just really like I know a lot of VTubers, and I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, "That's weird and cool." And like the first time I had, for instance, Rebel on the show, even though it was an audio only podcast at that time, it hadn't even been video. She was still more comfortable using a VTuber than it was coming on person because she had only recently transitioned and didn't want to have her face on the thing. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm whatever you're comfortable with. I'm
Yeah,
comfortable with. We love trans folks here, so we're like, whatever works. I'm just I'm old enough that I can just roll with it. I don't care. It's like it's all good. Um,
fair enough.
but it's also just like when we met in person, I I had a picture in my head of what this was going to go like, and I was not expecting V2.
Fair enough.
And it's like that's not an insult to you or to anything. It's just like sometimes our careers take us to different places.
Hey, it is what it is. I've learned not to take offense over anything that does not have malicious intent behind
Yeah,
it.
like this is just the world, right? Like whatever it is. It's of all
Yeah,
the things. This is like, dude, I don't care. It's cool, man. And if you got an audience and they love it, then do it, man. Roll with it. Like, and it doesn't hurt you, and it doesn't actually change anything you're doing. So it's like, it's fine. If you're getting your political conversation from a slime girl, 2025.
it is what it is. It is what it is at that point.
Goodness gracious me. I'm going to have to do a lot of
But
minor editing to this, or I might not. I apologize to the audience in advance. So, though, let's talk about like, because there's multiple stories that were here that you brought up that I'm kind of interested in poking, which is the
okay.
like you started as a Hearthstone streamer. Okay, I get what that is. I played a lot of Hearthstone when it came out. I understand. Obviously, that's like very similar to Magic in terms of the content space. But how did you
Mhm.
move into politics?
So I lost my spark for Hearthstone because I didn't realize what a hyperfixation was at the time. I
Mm,
didn't know anything about like neurodivergency or anything like that. And to be fair, I'm still undiagnosed, but maybe I'm kind of sure,
yeah.
honestly, at a certain point. But I didn't realize that was very much a fixation of mine. And so once that fixation died, all of the want to make content about it died. I didn't have good camera equipment or anything. So like my want to do other types of content just wasn't there either. My algorithm, however, got me watching a lot of the atheist skeptic political content down the road. And as I was watching it, there's a set of YouTubers in that space who are very, very they're just not good people at
Yeah.
all. And
That's
those were the people that I was watching in the beginning. My algorithm then eventually moved me into other YouTubers like Vice Rhino, who was a very, very progressive member of that space. And as I was watching more and more of that stuff, I started to learn more about things about like gender as an example, something that I had a very hardline conservative stance on
Mm.
10 years ago. It started to kind of evaporate out of the way. And I started to go, well, I want to do content like these people. I want to do content like this. Unfortunately, I was in that very angry atheist phase still of like, I've deconverted from my religion and now I'm just
Yeah,
mad at
well,
the world.
one thing about that, because I run into that a lot
Hmm.
in my capacity as a priest and stuff, is that one of the things that we run into is you have been filling this portion of your life, your soul, with this idea of religion or this idea of community through religion or whatever it is, right? The support structure. And then when you become disillusioned with it, when you rip it out of your life for any number of good or bad reasons, one of the things that our culture does not do well is give people a support structure on what to do now.
Yeah, we don't
As
have
in,
a lot
like,
of we don't have a lot of ways to support ourselves when we're reconstructing.
right, exactly that. Like, we don't have a lot of, like, one of the problems is we don't have a lot of community. We don't have a lot of, we've taken away all the third spaces. We've taken away all the places to hang out, discover yourself, be who you want to be, explore, right? Or support structures of friends and family and community and boring things that people are like, that's so cringe, but you need in your life. And it's
Mhm.
like, it doesn't have to be religion, but it does have, but something,
You need something
we're
there.
communal people. We need to have some sense of community. And that is one of the things that I've always been most frustrated with, like the modern internet atheist movement, is like they're very good at tearing the building down,
They're
but
not
not
very good
very
at
good at
building
telling
one.
you what to do when you're standing in the ruined wreckage of your life.
And that's one of the reasons why I started to latch on to people like Vice Rhino, because he was better at I say was I run a podcast with him now. So
Mm,
um so he is better at that reconstruction part, like how what do you replace this with, and
right,
there are other creators who saw that same problem and said like, hey, we can't just have an entire movement based on you don't believe a thing exists, there's no
right.
foundation there, there's nothing to work with, you need something else there. And for a lot of people, that was progressive values. For me, initially, it wasn't. That wasn't the content that I was consuming. But it turned into that because there is a church called the NIFB, the New Independent Fundamental Baptists,
Mm,
who a tiny bit of history. I actually grew up in the old IFB because the IFB, the Internet Fundamental Baptists or Independent Fundamental Baptists, and the Seventh Day Adventists made a school called Pensacola Christian Academy, and that was the school I grew up in. It was a very conservative Christian environment. That because of that and my history with them, when I found out that there had been a split in the IFB and there was a pastor, Stephen Anderson, who was preaching a lot of hate, because I was now a content creator in that sphere, that's a perfect area for me to go and pick apart those sermons, figure out what problems there are with them. And he would say horrendous things, like that he doesn't care if Sharia law were to take over the United States so long as he got to kill all the gay people, like that, just stuff that sounds like a cartoon character would say these things, but he was a real person saying them. And I realized, oh, we have an idea of like the Westboro Baptist Church. That's kind of everybody's idea of like, what does a Christian hate church look like? And the NAIFB makes them look like pansies, effectively. Like they are the professional version of that, but
good
they don't get the
Christ.
same media attention. But as I started criticizing their stuff more, I realized that I was focusing less on the religious aspect and more on the politics.
Right,
I'm not upset at this person because they believe in a god. I'm upset at this person because they're using it as a cudgel.
right.
And that's the thing that I don't like. And so my content started to morph around that as well. And so as a result of that, I started getting a lot of progressive Christians, a lot of pagans. Hell, one of my best friends is actually a Norse pagan,
Mm,
who started identifying with my content more, and that was the community that I realized I wanted to foster more. I don't want this community of angry people who just lost something and they're desperately trying to fill it out. I want a
mm.
community of people who want to make good happen in the world and don't like seeing bad things in the world. Like that's what I wanted. And it's one of the reasons that I ended up falling back into doing Magic content as well, because of that aspect of people not having their foundations anymore. Where is your third place? What community can you build? Well, having a community around a game is far healthier than having a community about, us all feeling betrayed by a religion or a philosophy. Like, that's a
Right,
far
because
more
that
healthy
leads to
thing.
extremism, and that leads to just it's not a fulfilling way to be. Like,
No,
you
it's just
can't
lashing out.
yeah, you can't build a community based around like a thing you don't have and don't like. Like that just doesn't go good places, right? Like if you
No.
build a community around, hey, we like this and share this values or whatever it is, this hobby, this game, then you've got a thing that's like making you happy that you can collectively build off of and build a community. I mean, that's what makes things like going to MagicCon so great because you see all these people from disparate walks of life, disparate parts of the world come together and it's like, look, we all like this game. Whatever else we've got going on, we've got this one shared connection. And from there, we can build other connections and then build a better, happier group of people, right? Like, that's one of the things about the internet that's so annoying is like, it just amplifies loneliness and anger. And
It does.
it's
It really
not,
does.
it's like, anyways.
It amplifies it in a way that is insidious because the algorithms on places like Twitter and Facebook are actually designed to feed off of engagement.
Mhm.
YouTube is similar. Because they feed off of engagement, people don't engage more often when they love something. Ironically, they engage more often when something makes them angry. They engage more often when something makes them lash out. And algorithms that feed on that pit people against each other more often because that makes advertisers able to be sold on that website's ability to put more eyes on screens because the eyes are constantly refreshing the screens to see when the person they're fighting has posted again.
Oh, boy, have I lived that life. Oh my god! Like, as a dude who's basically been two online posters since like 1994, like I have seen the cycles of this come and go, and it's just like it's it's very frustrating to realize that like, and I'm not like absolving any of our like non-internet institutions that have failed us so significantly as a
Yeah.
society because capitalism has come and taken over all of these things, religions, communities, any of these organizations that come together. These guys have like tried to find a way to monetize it or to build it into a system that gives you in groups and out groups and people to hate and people to like lash out against, so you're not paying attention to the guy picking your pocket. And it's just like, as a person who is like basically a progressive religious leader, this is the sort of thing that just makes me go crazy. Because it's like, dude, don't you understand that the problem is that we're just fostering hate and fostering unhappiness, and nobody's actually going to get better, and society's not going to get better because we're just like, when we run out of this group to hate, we're going to move on to that
We're going to
group.
go to the next one.
And it's like, dude,
we always have to go to the next group.
So my favorite book series of all time is Dragonlance. And in Dragonlance, one of the main characters is a dude named Raceland, who is a black robe wizard who is basically, he is very self-centered and selfish and very, very powerful. And he is like driven by like spite and revenge based on slights that he thinks he had as a child. And when I was a kid, I was like, man, this guy is going to show those bullies what's up. And as an adult, I'm like, man, this dude is like pure ass incel culture. But the thing is, like, in one of the book series, he gets his way. He goes to the heavens, destroys all the gods, and becomes a god himself. However, what he realizes is that he thrives on the argument and on like fighting people and on showing people up. And when he's beaten everybody, all he is a black sucking void trying to generate
he's just
energy.
A husk at that point.
Yeah, he's a husk drawing, like he's in stars. He's trying to take power from everything. And they're like, look, dude, evil doesn't create, it only destroys. And like, once you've destroyed everything, what is left but you as an Ouroboros eating your own tail, begging for any semblance of something to fight against, but there's nothing left, just a sucking void. And that was a lesson that took me a long time to learn. I'm like, oh, if you like things, other people like things, and then you get together and you can like things together and we all have a good time. What about that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It is
Turns out,
kind of crazy. It's actually a phenomenon I noticed, a tiny tangent. I'm not sure if you've played much World of Warcraft.
I played
But
World of Warcraft for 3 minutes during the open beta at the very last day, and
mhm,
I played a Taurian, and there was some guy who said, "You need to collect 5 chickens," and then a bunch of rocks started falling from the sky, and everybody said, "Dance." And
okay, that's certainly an experience.
and I was like, "That seems to be about all the Warcraft I will ever need," and I was done.
So there's a brief thing. A thing I've been doing on stream a lot has been playing hardcore classic WoW, and hardcore is if your character dies, it gets deleted. A fun
Mhm.
phenomenon that I've noticed is that the hardcore crowd is the most casual crowd for World of Warcraft because the players who they're in there for that fight, they're in there for that argument, they're in there not for community, but they're in there because they want something to be up against and something to be angry about. Those players don't last long in the hardcore servers because they don't get grabbed by anybody to protect them, and then their characters just get deleted on repeat because they
Hmm.
keep coming up against problems that they can't like deal with without going to other people for help. And in regular WoW, that just means you know you lose 5 minutes of time, but in hardcore, the character's gone. The
Mm.
only people who survive are the people who are able to just sit back and be chill with others. And it inadvertently created the most casual version of the game I've played, which is fascinating.
There's something to be said about that where it's like, so Eric Levine, who was a content creator for a long time in Magic the Gathering and now works at Wizards, so he's no longer content creating, created this notion very long time ago called the Levine Trench, which
Okay.
is to say, like, it was kind of like mapping out the tier of assholishness of people at FNM. And it was like, the newest players are very high up here in the we're very kind and happy to be here and super excited. And the
Mm-hmm.
turbo expert players who are like, Pro Tour winning Hall of Famers and stuff are also up here at the we're very nice and love this and we're very chill and relaxed about it. And it's like the dip goes way down to the people who are almost but not quite good enough to be like grinders or F&M bosses or whatever,
The
who are
people
just
who
like
call themselves the tournament grinders,
the try hard to the universe. And it's
but
just
they're
like,
just the local legend.
and you're just like the worst trolls, and not even trolls, just like gremlins, just horrific, like people you don't want to hang out with or spend any time with. It's like the ones are like, man, Magic is falling downhill. Nobody even wants to play anymore. I'm like, that's because you're a jackass. Like, come on.
It's wild. So I get a couple of those in my comment section, usually talking very heavily about like universes beyond.
Mm,
And I'm just like, look, you can have whatever opinion you want about UB, but right now, in this moment, I get to play Magic with more people than I've gotten to play Magic with in my entire life.
hmm
And this hobby is more accepted in public spaces than it has been at any point in my entire life. I have a lot of problems with how UB is executed, but
Sure.
in the moment right now, I'm able to enjoy the game a lot in a way I wasn't able to enjoy before, and that's to be commended. For all of its faults, that part I am very very thrilled about. So like, that's the thing that I like focusing on more than anything. And I get very angry people in my comments like, why aren't you lambasting wizards? Like, well, I did. That was last video. This video we're talking about how cool it is to play a
Honestly,
colossal dreadmaw in the command zone.
the one thing that people need to remember is that the best part about Magic is playing Magic, and
Yeah.
you need people to play with. And the more people that come in, the better we're all going to be, because then it's like, woo, there's always going to be people to play with. And that's the most fun part. Like, yes, okay, so what? You came in through Doctor Who, or somebody got you the Princess Bride secret layer, or like, you got in because they made Street Fighter cards, or
Those aren't the real fans. What are you talking about?
I don't care, dog. Like, I've been here since 1994, and there were people then who were calling me not a real fan because I started with revised instead of alpha. And I'm like, bro, it's been a year. Like, chill
If
the hell
there's
out.
if
You
there
know, it's, look, yes, Wizards is doing a lot of silly things, and they're doing a lot of capitalism, and they're making a lot of money based on this stuff. And I agree, there are problems with like the way they're working the design and development team. They're grinding up to the bone. There's like too many sets coming. I mean, look, the list is endless, and God knows I've gone to these people directly and told them, like, you
Mhm.
are killing the game by like, overwatering the plant, right? Like, but at the same time, I met so many people in Atlanta who were like, yeah, man, I came in through Warhammer, or I came in through Lord of the Rings, or I came in because Final Fantasy was so sick. And I'm like, hey, Final Fantasy was sick. Lord of the Rings was sick.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the folks coming in through Spider-Man, but that's a different problem. Uh, and they will stay and they'll discover the things we love about the game, and then we'll figure it out. And honestly, real talk, every time people are like, oh yeah, man, I'm never gonna play with such and such a card or Pizza Lands or whatever. Look, dude, when you sit down and start playing the game of Magic, 10 seconds after you start, the only thing you care about is the text on the bottom of the card and how is it going to stop you from doing the thing with the text on the bottom of your card.
Which
The
means
top of the card means nothing, right? Like,
which means the thing that ends up mattering about Universes Beyond is if the set itself is designed well, and if the power creep that the players have to contend with is kept in check. I would argue that we're not in a great spot in both of those ways.
no. Like,
The
look,
thing-
I'm not going to be cheery-eyed about like I'll be real. I think Spider-Man was the biggest miss on like every axis it could be. And
I
I
think
say
so
this,
too.
yeah, and I say this, and it doesn't make me happy because one of my really good friends was the lead designer of it, Corey Bowen, who created Baldur's Gate, which is one of the best sets of all time. You know what? They can't all be winners. Like,
It
sometimes
happens.
you're just given an impossible task, and we end up with Spiders, man.
But
And
the
I'm
thing
like,
is that we also had Aether Drift. We had similar sets that people were deflated on that were still universes within.
yeah,
Like, that's still a thing. And for people who have been playing Magic for a while, like, I started in Mirrodin block. So I got to have some exposure, not as much as I could have, but I got to have some exposure to Kamigawa block. And Kamigawa in Standard was not a very well loved experience by a lot of people. And hell, I love Mirrodin, but I know Mirrodin was also not a well loved experience by a lot of people. There's a reason that we got Skullclamp banned and Atog banned
and like 9 other cards banned, right?
yeah, there's a reason, and all of the colored lands all got knocked out of Legacy. Like, there's a reason that happened. There's a not Legacy, but Pauper. Like, no, actually, those ones are allowed in Pauper, aren't they? Modern, I'm thinking of is where they're not allowed.
Yes,
but
whatever.
Yeah, Magic is Magic. I play Affinity in Modern, and I'm just like, how did I not forget the actual format that I play Affinity in? But like, I've seen these complaints, and I've come from playing Yu-Gi-Oh, playing Pokemon, playing Weiss, so I've watched this cycle happen in every game I've ever played. This is not a uniquely Magic problem. This is a problem that exists because card games are what they are. They are games based on incremental design and variance. And when you have games based on incremental design and variance, you have stumbling blocks, and you have moments where the designers thought that something wasn't going to happen often enough to be a problem, and then that dice roll happened the other way around. Yeah, like that is what happens in these games. It is an aspect of these games to get familiar with. It's okay. What matters more is making sure that your third space is cultivated with the kinds of people and the kinds of experience that make you want to come back to that third space later. I guess maybe we should probably talk about what a third space is for people who might be new to that.
What do you think a third space is?
So when you're existing, there's a theory that there are 3 spaces that you exist in. You have your first space. This is your home. This is the place that you eat, sleep, poop. Then you have your second space. This is the space that you work in, the space that you exit your home and you go to make a living from. And then after that, you have what's called the social space. This is the space where you go to make your friends. This is the space where you go to get new experiences. This is the space you go to recharge for your mental health. Now, a phenomenon that had been happening for a long time and has gotten worse is us being atomized as people, where most of us are at home, scrolling through our phones. We are separated from one another, but we feel like we're hyper connected to one another because we're using the internet. So of course we're connected to other people, but we're not. We're having those angry conversations like we talked about earlier, or we're just scrolling an auto-generated feed coming to us. And COVID made this worse too, because for every argument in favor of working from home, there are people who were not able to handle working from home well and blended their first and second space. Now suddenly the bed that they sleep in is also the bed that they do their work from home in. There's no separation for that space. They didn't set up an area on the other end of the house of like, this is the place I access when I need to work. There's no separation for them. And then our third space, which was already being eaten away, the third space being your social space, this is a thing that used to be like going to the mall, or for us, it'd be going to the card shop. But if those places are no longer as lucrative, they start to shut down, and places we're allowed to just loiter start to disappear. Now your social space becomes your online space. Well, where do you access your online space? In the same bed that you're working and sleeping in. Now suddenly your brain is viewing these all as the same thing. They're blurring them together like a badly edited montage. And the end result of that is just you getting depressed. Just straight up. And this is almost a unilateral experience for a lot of people. I had this happen for me. I was raiding in World of Warcraft. That was my thing I was doing on stream. And so that was me going, this is my recreation. I'm doing it on stream, so this is my work. And at the time, my workspace was right next to my living space. So I was like, yeah, all of this stuff is blending together. My mental health was going on a steep decline, and I didn't notice it until it was too late. I had to quit WoW entirely, go to the card shop, and start spending time with people not online, spending time in real life with people, and getting reacquainted with Magic. That was during Kaldheim pre-release. And Modern Horizons 2's pre-release is what brought me back into Magic around that time. And I noticed my mental health suddenly was a lot better. It's almost like having a social space outside of my home made life better. So, weird.
I also work from home because, like, during the pandemic, I mean, before the pandemic, I had a nice office job. And then during the pandemic, my office job got lost and sold my company to a different company. And I ended up just taking care of my kid and doing whatever and starting this podcast and all the other things and working from home. And I have an office that is not my bedroom specifically on purpose. But at the same time, it is still like the 20 feet of my house that I live in, right? And that was really, like, having these podcasts, having the ability to talk to other people was what kept me alive and going. And I've been talking to my therapist, and I was talking to him a few weeks ago about how, like, miserable I was. And he was like, are there any conventions coming up? And I was like, yeah, and next week I'm going to Atlanta. He's like, great, I'll talk to you 2 weeks after that, and then we'll see how you're doing. And I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah, you're right. Going outside with people, it's so good.
It turns out when you meet your people at cons, or you go to people's houses to play Commander, or you do anything with a group of humans, you feel better. You feel better about yourself. You feel better about everything. And even if things aren't like, that's why going to, for instance, going to these No Kings protests or going to any of these other big gatherings, it's not necessarily because you're trying to make a change. It's as much as it's being with other people in communion about the same thing, focusing on the same direction, feels really good and gives you your body endorphins. It makes you feel like you're part of something and that you're not alone, which is such a big deal, because when your brain feels you're alone, that's when we get to crazy town, right? Like,
I've mentioned it on my channel a few times. For me, the utility of a protest is in the ability to bring people together for a shared grievance.
Yes.
That is the primary utility of a protest. The protest's job is not to change the world. The protest, and granted, I've kept this philosophy for years, but the way that I've thought about it has changed. It used to be, the point of the protest is not to change the world, therefore it's useless. Now it's turned into, the point of the protest is not to change the world, but it has other utility that is worth engaging in. It's why I've gone, for my channel, I've gone and filmed protests in Atlanta. It's why I went to DC to film as well. Like, I've done traveling for filming protests solely because it does end up being about that shared grievance, that shared community.
Yeah.
Hey, we all don't like this thing that's happening, but let's go to dinner afterwards and let's talk about what we can do about it.
Right. It's a matter, and that's why, like, Magic events and stuff are so important, especially to me. Like, that's why I'm really bummed that we don't have, like, the GP circuit that we used to do, where it was just all the time, every weekend, because it is so important in a world where we don't have as many LGSs, we don't have libraries, we don't have places to just go chill. Like, frustrates me so much as a parent that my kid doesn't have the kind of place to just go to, like, doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to go to a park and hang out because of any number of different reasons.
Yup.
And I'm like, how do you, like, if you don't have these places to explore, relax, be creative, and just be, not even do anything, just exist with other
Just
people.
loiter.
Yeah, like, you need that for just development, just to learn how to be a human. And like, that's why I love going to Magic Cons and stuff, because it's like, we get to sit there and remind ourselves that this is a community, that we share this love of this thing, and that we can transition that into love of each other and build just friendships and build just companionships. Like, it's so important. It's so important to just know that other people out there are there that like you and want to hang out and want to fight against your Yigra deck or whatever. It's like, it's good times.
That's the thing. Like, I try to advocate for people to go. I think I've made at least 3 videos that have had the exact same idea on my political channel, where it's just been, hey, I understand you're watching this video. I want you to stop. I want you to go outside. I want you to go make a friend. I want you to go to the bar and hang out with somebody. I want you to go to the card shop and play with somebody. I want you to do that. You can come to this video when you're done. And you're going to find that the video will be done, because that literally was the video. It was 10 minutes of me saying go outside effectively. But I think that, like, if you're worried about utility, you cannot give anything to anybody else. You cannot fill their bucket up if your personal bucket is empty. You can't. So you need to be able to take care of yourself. And taking care of yourself isn't just, getting up and eating right and going to the gym. That's part of it. The bigger part of it is finding out where the people are that share something with you, and going and hanging out with them and going and being a part of that community. That will help you out far more than anything else. It doesn't have to be Magic. I'd like it to be, because then you might watch my Magic channel.
Right.
But people are more effective. They're better versions of themselves when they're recharged. And one of the best ways we have to recharge is being around people who enjoy our company. That's also kind of why it's important not to be that person in the middle gulf of the Friday Night Magic grinder, like you mentioned, where they're try hard. They have to win. If they don't get the win that day, they're upset. No, don't be that person, because you want to be the person somebody wants to sit at your table again.
Be someone people want to hang out with. It's not that hard. I mean, look, it is hard. If it wasn't hard, I wouldn't be telling you. However, it's still so important. Just because, like, that's why I keep harping on, like, this thing, like, we're responsible for the entertainment of and the enjoyment of everybody at the table. It's not necessarily I'm saying, like, don't win. I'm just saying, make it a place that folks want to feel good about hanging out at.
Yeah, like, it's why, like, a idea that I've tried to lean into for my content, because I've had a couple comments where people mentioned, like, hey, you talk about budget decks all the time. And the reason I talk about budget decks is because I think that one of the biggest scary points for Magic is we sensationalize the cost of cards. Black Lotus has a legendary price tag. Once you find out that the dual lands are what they are, those are insanely cost inefficient to try to pick up. We hear about $6,000 CEDH decks. We hear about $1,200 modern decks. And it's enough of a reason for somebody to not come into the game. But if they have a foundation of, like, here's this $15 deck, here's this $20 deck, that I am willing to go to my own Commander tournaments and play with the tables there and perform well enough, then I can give this deck to other people and say, here, play this. I did that this last weekend. There was a player who was new at the card shop, and one of his friends who brought him said, hey, do you have a deck that's spare that he can play? And I have a box of just my $15 decks. I handed him the box and I said, pick what you want. Just take the box with you. Just bring it back to me at the end of the day so you can pick whatever you want for every round of the EDH tournament. If that's what you want to do, go right ahead and let me know what was your favorite, and we can work on getting something built for you. But go have fun. He ended up enjoying Shesra, the Golgari, whenever a creature dies, lose 2 life, draw a card. I have it built as a control commander that kills you if you don't find a way to close the game out and you're just a control player stalling the game. I like that as a deck gimmick. So that was the deck that he ended up liking out of all of them the most. And I'm like, yeah, sweet. I think we can work with
Love
this.
that for you.
But in general, we want to make those spaces easier and better to navigate. If you're that asshole that desperately needs to win your game, the way you lean into that is, hey, you like playing with power? Give your deck a weakness. Become a Saturday morning cartoon villain. Give your deck a small weakness and let players at the table know what that weakness is so that they can try to exploit it. And if they exploit it, they get to win the game. They solve the puzzle of what your deck is doing. But if they choose not to do that, then they're having to fight a 3v1 uphill battle against the table villain. That'll give you all of your I'm playing with power shenanigans, but it's going to be a more fun experience for the other people at the table. Because at that point, you're dungeon master to a DM group for the 50 minutes of our round.
I love that. I love that. That's exactly what it should be. It's like, look, dude, because one of the things, I say this a lot. I learned from a lot of Wizard deploys, if you want to have if you're like a really cutthroat competitive person and you want to play a casual game, what you do is you build your deck with a casual mindset and then play it to the farthest possible extent you can. Just grind it out. You're just capping yourself power level wise initially, and then just go ham. Be as hardcore as you want, and everybody knows that this deck's never going to get higher than this power level because you just don't have the cards. But it feels good. You still get that, you get that feeling and sensation of just I am challenging myself and doing the hardest I can to win and grind it out and do a really
instead of stomping the table, you are willingly choosing a harder battle.
Yeah, you're like, look, you guys are so weak, I can destroy you with my hand tied behind my back.
And if you lean into that, players enjoy that a lot. If you do it correctly, you have to be able to lose gracefully afterwards. That's the thing.
Well, yeah. You
need to be able to go into that expecting that it's a 3v1 game. The odds are stacked against you, and you need to be okay with the loss when it happens. A friend of mine, we got to have that fun experience because I don't build my decks with tutors. I don't build them with Soul Ring. I try to kneecap them in as many avenues as I can to make sure that I'm just playing with, what variance gave me that turn. And if I can solve my way out of a problem, I do. If I don't, I don't. So puzzle that I got thrown against the wall with was my friend was playing Ishtola Burn. So he had Painful Quandary. So anytime you play a card, you either burn for 5 or discard a card. He had Shieldred out. When you draw a card, you burn. He had the Old Kembal out. When you cast a non-creature spell, you burn.
Jeez.
And I had 2 life left. And he was ending his turn. And I'm just like, oh, so I'm going to die as soon as my turn begins. Wait, hold on a minute. No, I'm not. Tap Port of Carfell, which is a land that lets you reanimate creatures from the grave.
Yeah, it's a Kaldheim land, the dual color.
Yes. Tap Port of Carfell, reanimate a clone from my graveyard, reanimate it as a copy of Bahamut that was on my board. Use the Bahamut trigger to kill the Shieldred, and then move into main phase, no longer burdened by the Shieldred, and use the double Bahamut triggers to kill the other burn spells. So I'm no longer under lockdown. And there was an older player who wanted to just watch our games. He had played way during Fallen Empires and stuff and had quit and was just now coming back. So he said, hey, I don't want to play this round. I just want to watch this round and see what happens. So I got to do that and just kind of wipe the sweat off my brow, going, I didn't know that I had a way out of that. I felt like I was dying when my upkeep began. But
that's so funny.
That's the kind of stuff that I like more about Commander is you get those experiences. You just have to be willing to accept that only 25% of the time you're going to be the one winning. You should be losing most of those games, and that's okay.
I harp on that a lot, which is to say, look, there are you're playing a game of 4 people. If you're winning more than 25% of the time, let's talk, right? you got a cheating problem here going on or something. But good players, it's baseball, right? The best baseball player is only going to hit 1 out of every 3 hits or whatever. Yes, I agree fully. I think you are absolutely in the correct mindset here. But, it's just, we got to do better at building our communities. We've got to do better at fostering good communities with good supportive people who want to hang out and want to play. And just because we need that, we need these in society today. Because if we've got more shared, connected humanity, then we've got less chance to give rise to idiocy.
I think there's a few ways we can go about that. One way that really helps is just leading by example. If you have the social stamina, this is kind of like the big problem is that like a lot of us, especially in nerd spaces, we don't have a lot of social stamina. We can do a couple of hours during F&M and then afterwards we have to go home and recharge, and that's completely normal. That's entirely okay.
It's totally fine.
But if you've got the social stamina, be the person that says, hey, when the F&M is over or when the Saturday Night Magic is over, why don't we all go out to eat? Why don't we go all out and do something else together? Why don't we engage in more than just the game? And we can play the game while we're there, absolutely, but we can go do more things there without like a tournament structure being the thing that guides us through the night. That way we can all just have a chill night. Or like what I do, because we have a bunch of people who go to the card shop, go and play, you find out a lot of things about those people's lives. So there's a couple of people in our group who don't know how to cook yet. They're just not at that stage of their lives where they've learned that particular skill. I know how to cook really well. I grew up with a dad who loved to cook. Well, I say grew up with, but that's not important to the story. But he loved to cook. He imparted a lot of that onto me. I did some kitchen work as I was growing up. I learned a lot of skills from doing that. So I really learned how to do your basic things in the kitchen that are foundational to making really good dishes. And as long as you have that, you can make a bunch of stuff. So what I did is I started saying, hey, why don't you all come over to my house, once a month or so, and I'll cook us a giant meal. And then after they had my cooking, they said, hey, can you teach us how to cook? Okay, cool. Now we've gone from Magic the Gathering to let's hang out at my house and do like Super Smash Brothers and Magic the Gathering. And now we're going to be spending time in the kitchen cooking together. I'll teach you how to make, like Korean beef and rice or butter chicken or something like that. I'll teach you how to make all this stuff from scratch.
Yes.
And it's going to be good. And
it's
for
called
those people,
making friends.
Yeah, it's basic stuff. And like your journey does not have to look like that. That's mine because I like cooking. I like playing video games. I like playing card games. So, of course, the ways I'm socializing are all built on that.
Yes. But not 100%.
Not everybody's journey is going to look like that. That's fine. But if you can keep a community where that's the example people see, it's more likely that more people are going to do that. They're going to have hangouts at their house instead of just at the card shop. They're going to be able to grab people when they're like, you get that person who, just turned 18. They don't know how to like function around a group of adults. You get to be that group of adults that they learn that with, and you get to be a good example for that person as they go through their journey in life. Because like I'm 34, we've got people in our play group who are like in their 60s, who would have been the example for me had this been the shop that I grew up in. They would have been the example for me. But I grew up in a shop where there were a bunch of adults who were my example, and just carrying that forward, it breeds a better community over time.
Yes. That is a good lesson. It bums me out that we have to reteach society how to be friends with each other, but we do because we've lost that ability, and it's super important. But with that, though, I think we've hit the top of the hour here, and thank you so much for joining me. I don't know where this conversation was going, but I had a good time, so I'll take it.
It definitely felt like it was mostly on mental health and community more than anything.
What? That's the thing I'm totally down with talking about, because like whatever, that's a thing that matter. Cards are cards are cards. But with that though, if folks wanted to find you, where would they go?
So if you want to watch my Magic the Gathering stuff, that is Suris MTG over on YouTube. My political stuff, which again, only if you've got the spoons for. That is just Suris on YouTube. On Blue Sky, you can find me. I think it's at Surisamu over on Blue Sky. I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah.
I don't check those as often because I don't want to get in those habits.
Yes. I wish I had that discipline.
And then on Discord, I got lucky enough to get my name, just Suris, as my Discord handle. So like, if you want to reach out to me, that's the guaranteed way to get my attention, because that's the thing that I do check all the time. talk about magic, talk about politics. My only request is don't be a butthole.
I believe that has been the thesis of our whole show. But with that, my friends, we will be calling this a show. As always, you can find me at Casual Magic, or rather, you can find me on Blue Sky at Shivam Bhatt. You can find the show anywhere podcasts are sold, or at YouTube every Tuesday. Thanks, my editor Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam Wheel of Love Magic or the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.